Original podcast series brought to you by the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce. I am Betsy Lavoie.
And I'm Kristin Milashowski.
We are thrilled to be here today to discuss where we left off last week. So hopefully you joined us last week. So we talked, Kristin, about how you and I met originally.
Yes.
And how we met at a PTO bookstore, not a bookstore,
The book fair.
The book fair. Thank you.
At the middle school.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that led us to really want to talk about how really supporting your school system helps commerce and helps the economic vitality in your town. So really it's kind of a stretch, but that's where we're going to start. So Kristin was volunteering at the PTO.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
And you were so personable and so welcoming. And I literally had just lost my receptionist. And so I went up to you and I developed a relationship pretty quickly.
Yes, we did.
And I said, any chance you might be willing to look at working at the Chamber of Commerce?
Yes.
And now fast forward 4 years.
4 years,
here we are
to the day.
And so we often, even a couple of years ago, the Chamber of Commerce endorsed a school bond for our town, for the Fountain Hills Unified School District. Unfortunately, it did not pass. Unfortunately, school bonds in our town don't often pass. And so we got a lot of feedback about why is the Chamber of Commerce support your school system so much, and why are you really going out on an almost media tour for our endorsement of the bond? And so I just really wanted to talk about that. There's not an active bond in session. There's nothing coming up on the ballot, but that's the time to talk about it. I wanted to really share why it's important as a Chamber of Commerce to support your local school district. And so first, before we dive into it, Kristin, I'd love for you to share your history from where you came from in Illinois and what your experience was there in a smaller town supporting your own schools.
Absolutely. We lived in a rural farm community. And if you know the Midwest, there's a lot of those scattered, very kind of sparse, long time. It might be 30 miles before you get to another rural farm community. But we saw the benefits of living there. We had raised our family there up until our move in 2020. The benefits of living in a, smaller community with a, supportive of that school district are aplenty. People know those teachers. They support the teachers. They know the kids and the families that are growing up there. And it really makes the community much more close-knit. It's that we're all in this together mentality.
Right.
It is crucial to any community. And that was one of the reasons that drove us to Fountain Hills. We liked that it was a smaller community. We, of course, looked at other areas, surrounding us here in the Valley and realized that that was a great school district. Our kids could have a similar experience. It was similar in the class size and overall school size to where we were in Illinois. It wouldn't be a huge change for them, to go in with thousands, in a school or maybe even in their classroom.
Right.
There's so much extra attention that the teachers can give. You can make a lot of friends. You can be involved in a lot of different sports. There, so many perks and benefits to that.
And were you able to select a different school district from the town in which you lived, or was it a requirement?
It was a requirement. You could go to a different school district, but you had to pay.
You did.
To go there, yes.
Okay.
So very different setup than what is here in Arizona, where we have the freedom to go pretty much, unless it's a charter, private school or Christian school.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's two different schools of thought.
Yes.
There's two different schools of thought on this. So we always talk about how competition really breeds businesses and entities to excel, because when you have competition, you have reasons to do better and to provide more service and to really do a great job. So one school of thought is to allow residents, families to choose where to go to school, and then the schools have to win that business, so to speak. And so I don't disagree with that concept. However, I do know that when you're competing a smaller school district like ours with a larger school district, that you're not on the same playing field. And that doesn't seem quite equitable or fair. And so when I look at our students that might be going over the hill, so to speak, into another town, whether that's Mesa or Scottsdale, then I often think about, wow, what if those students were just staying in our school district, and what a difference that could make for our our vitality or vibrancy as a school district. And so I know that both of our families have student athletes.
Yes.
And so it's often that families will choose another school district because of the athletic opportunities.
Sure.
And so I know that you had just shared with me that your son Lee, he's the same age as my son Mason,
Yes.
and they're in 9th grade, and they are both playing football. And so share with me what you shared, what Lee said recently.
Yes. So my son Lee keeps in touch with his Midwest friends, and they chat frequently and talk. He has wanted to go back and play football in the Midwest there with them. And, of course, we're here, Lee, we're making our life here. This is where we're at. And sometimes, you simply need to be where you're at and, play the sport you're in with the kids you're in. He's wanted to go back for many years and play football there. They've had a very successful JFL program and a team. However, the tables have turned this year, and the high school team that Lee and Mason are playing on is more successful than his friends are at home. And now his friends have asked, can we stay with you, Lee, and play at your school for football? And so, Lee is seeing that the grass isn't necessarily greener on the other side, which is a good lesson at this age for him to learn.
Yes, absolutely. Or just wait long enough and put your time in.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you nurture your own grass. And so your own grass does become greener, even if it might have looked greener on the other side. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I love that
sometimes you're trying to chase that success, or you're going where you think it's at, but you're right. If you water that there, a lot of times some really great things can happen.
Right, absolutely. So going back to commerce and talking about if you as a family, whether you're in Fountain Hills or Scottsdale or another city anywhere in the nation, so if you as a family choose to take your children and your family to another school district outside of your municipality, we often talk about what the greater ripple effect of that looks like. So for example, whether you have little kids that you're driving or you have older kids that are driving themselves, your entire life tends to grow where you're going to school. So the kids, their friends are at the new school, whether that's 30 minutes away or 20 minutes away, what have you. And then the birthday parties are 20 or 30 minutes away. And then the family friends become that far away. And then guess what? You go out to dinner or drinks, and you're meeting with those family friends who are now not in your city. And if you're driving your kids and on the way to dropping them off, you need gas, are you going to go outside of your way and make sure to always support local and go in your own city? You'll probably do what's most convenient, which is probably something that's right by the school that you're dropping off at. So you end up building the economy of another city and another school district that's not your own. And so we often talk about, instead of just saying support local, we want you to prefer local. So to get from supporting local to preferring local, how do you do that? So we just talked about watering your own grass so that it becomes what you want it to be, be the change you want to see, right? So what else can you think of that we can do as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as the Chamber of Commerce to really create that change so that you are helping your own school district prosper instead of giving all of the benefit to another municipality?
Yes, yeah. I think it's recognizing, even for adults, that grass isn't necessarily greener on the other side. I think sports can be so competitive for adults sometimes, and sometimes they want to relive those memories through their kids. And we have to remember that only a small percentage of athletes get those full ride scholarships or even go pro.
Right.
It's such a small percentage or possibility that can truly happen. And so I think that sometimes we need to stay centered and, think about that. And are we driving our kids to craziness, for all the sports and activities that might be going on somewhere else in another town? Could they be just as successful and have just as much fun and have as many of the takeaways playing right in Fountain Hills?
Right.
And for anything, whether they're in sports or not, it can be clubs, it can be the school itself. Kids are going to have they're going to learn a lot of the same things. Maybe textbook wise,
yes,
it could possibly be a little bit different, but you can share a little bit as well about what changes are going on at Fountain Hills
Yes.
that they're offering for college credits. There's even a trade opportunity with EVIT. And I
Yes.
think that you shared recently there's possibly something new on the horizon for the littles.
For the littles.
Yes.
We love to call them the littles. Yes. So thank you for sharing that, because we often will, of course, feature why Fountain Hills is different, because as we said last time, our town is unique. And so from our Fountain Hills Unified School District, we do have FHU, which is an opportunity for our students to get dual credit. I know that's
amazing.
not unique, though. I know that a lot of high schools offer dual credit. What's unique is that dual credit is with Arizona State University. So oftentimes when someone gets dual credit, it's with a community college, which is fine. But when you are feeding your state college with students that already have a transcript, that already have credits, it's a much easier transition for that student. So that's very exciting.
It is.
Where our students can graduate from high school with their first 1 or 2 years of college already done at ASU. So that's very exciting. And then the Littles program that you mentioned, I just learned is going to roll out next year, hopefully, is to really accelerate the math program for the elementary school kids, so that they will be at minimum 1 or 2 years advanced in math. So by the time they get to middle school and high school, they are very far advanced. And so the transition directly into college and those collegiate level classes is very smooth. And so we always talk about a portrait of a graduate. I know that often schools talk about that. It's not so much about just their academics or just their athletics. It's about the person they're becoming through the process. And so I know that our focus is to truly, we want kids who are becoming adults, who are wonderful people to be around because they've given back to their community and they've engaged and they've done community service. They've done our intern program, which again is another thing that sets us apart.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of larger schools, they have even asked our superintendent, how did you possibly create an intern program where every graduating senior is required to intern with a chamber member business? And we're so proud to be able to share it's because we're smaller. As a smaller school district, we're able to partner with local companies so that we can teach those kids, our kids,
Yes.
the real skills to go out there and be a great part of society. So obviously we have a ton of pride for our schools, but it's good to also talk about, you know, Lee wanting to leave and play ball at another school
Yes.
that was a more winning school. And now those same friends want to come here because now
Right.
we're the more winning school. So it just is a really great lesson. Just wait it out. And I know a lot of families and a lot of kids even don't think they have time to wait it out.
Yeah.
Because you only have the 4 years of high school. So I also see that part. But just know there's always opportunity. So even if, so I'm just going to brag on her son really quick. Her son is really good. And he already has great opportunity, but he probably wouldn't even be playing as much at a larger school.
Yes, we've shared that with him as well. If you're going out into much bigger teams, the competition to even get on the field looks different at that point.
Right.
And that's another thing is, does your child want to put in that effort? Is it you or is it your child that wants that effort? What is it that they're willing to work for to play, you know, be starting out on the field with them?
Right.
So, you know, that's something that we've had those chats, so, you know, about keeping focus. You're playing here and you have those opportunities and where you're at. Do you want to sacrifice that for somewhere else?
Exactly. And those short 4 years, like you said, are you having a ball? You know, do you get more playtime? And maybe you could be in multi-sports.
Right.
So
I think that's a great thing about our school district is the kids, you know, boys or girls, they have the opportunity to be multi-sport athletes. You don't just have to choose one.
Right.
They can play volleyball. They can play basketball. You know, they can do track. They can be part of so many different programs. And I think that's a beauty of it.
Yes, huge. And I do believe, we'll have to look up the stats, but I believe it was 10% of all graduating seniors from our high school actually signed to play athletics in college.
Yes.
So 10% is kind of huge.
It is.
Quite frankly. And it wasn't just 10% of all the student athletes. It was 10% of all the seniors. So I know even of all the seniors who are graduating, I don't know how many are student athletes, but 10% of all the graduating seniors signed to play athletics in college, which is darn
remarkable.
near, remarkable, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then one other thing that you mentioned was EVIT.
Yes.
So EVIT, we at the Chamber of Commerce often talk about trades and service industry, and there's so much opportunity with young people, old people, everyone in the trades, whether it's in HVAC or plumbing or construction, any of the trades. There's so much opportunity out there where a graduating senior can go to partner through our school with EVIT and get a trade certificate that would cost them thousands and thousands of dollars that is actually covered during their high school years. And then they get state certified as if they were not just in high school, as if they were going to a trade school. And they can go out and get a trade job or even apprentice if they still need to learn more and earn a real adult income.
Yes.
We have some HVAC students who are starting wage is $89,000 to $100,000 as a 19-year-old kid. Like, that's unheard of.
It is.
And so to be able to really embrace the trades and embrace the fact that through the high school career you can get that trade certificate is really enticing.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's great that the schools offer that because college is not for every student.
Exactly.
A lot of times we hear about college, but it's not. Some people just simply want to work. They want to learn a trade and they want to go out and, spend a few years in that. And then maybe they want to launch their own business and they bring that into Fountain Hills and they're doing it right in there. And it keeps our community alive. It keeps it growing.
Absolutely.
So, they're very, very valuable to be a part of that EVIT program.
And then on the flip side, with EVIT and the intern program, a student might think that they want to do something, and then they go through a trade program and really decide that's not something they want to do. And so that just saved them a ton of time and money later on. And same with the intern program. So someone might decide that they want to go into nonprofit management, and they intern with the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, for example, and realize that maybe is not something they want to do. Well, we just were able to save them a lot of time and education to follow a different path.
Yes. So that's also, the perfect example of that is, I thought I wanted to be a real estate agent and then realize, maybe not so much, I'm going to explore a different path. So that's nice. And then you have a little bit of knowledge of another industry.
Right.
Never hurts.
Absolutely. And to wrap it up, that kind of reminds me of if you've ever read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
So Rich Dad always talks about being really well-versed in many different things. And so the examples that we're sharing today is really setting up our portraits of graduates to be well-versed in many different things so that we're setting them up for long-term success.
Yes.
So what we really want to talk about, sorry about that, what we really want to talk about is just the fact support local means preferring local. And if to prefer local is not exactly what you want it to be right now, create it. What does that look like? There are other people who might want that same change that you want. So be a part of that change so that you can truly prefer your local.
That's right. It's a circle that never stops giving.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.